If you were praised constantly as a child and still feel in the quiet moments like a fraud about to be found out, I am going to tell you something that sounds backwards. It might be because you were praised, not despite it. Western parents tell their children, "You are amazing." My parents told me, "You are capable of becoming amazing," and then they made me go prove it. Most people hear those two sentences and think they mean the same thing, said a little differently. They do not. They point at two completely different theories of how you build a human being who can withstand a hard life. And the gap between them explains something a lot of exhausted, anxious, high-achieving adults feel and cannot name, which is the strange hollowness of having been told your whole childhood that you were wonderful and still not quite believing, underneath, that you can handle anything, and the explanation has nothing to do with you not being praised enough. It has to do with what praise can and cannot build. Once you see the difference between the two things a parent can try to give a child, self-esteem or strength, you are going to understand not just a gap between two cultures, but something about your own life that has probably been quietly bothering you for years. Let me be honest about what this is and what it isn't, because I don't want to waste the trust you gave me by clicking. I am not going to tell you that my culture raises children perfectly and the West gets it all wrong, because that would be a lie and a lazy one, and this channel does not sell you the fantasy that some other culture quietly solved the thing yours struggles with. The way I was raised has real costs, and I am going to be honest with you about them before the end, because a childhood built on strength and not enough warmth leaves its own specific wounds, and I have felt them. And I am not describing a billion people, because Chinese families are as different from one another as any people on Earth. I am describing my family, the mother and father who raised me, and the son my husband and I are raising now, and the one quiet difference in philosophy that I think matters more than almost anything else a parent decides. Here is that difference, stated as plainly as I can. A popular strand of Western parenting advice, the one that has shaped a whole generation, is built on a beautiful idea, which is that if you can just make a child feel good about themselves, feel valuable, feel worthy, feel confident, then that inner sense of worth will carry them through whatever life brings. Protect the self-esteem, and the strong adult follows. It is a genuinely kind idea, born of good intentions, often a correction to harsher generations before it. And I want to be fair to it, because there is real love in it, and it got some real things right. Children do need to feel valued. A child starved of warmth and approval carries that wound for life too. So this is not a stupid theory. It is a theory that mistakes one true thing for the whole truth. Because the tradition I was raised in made a different bet entirely, and the bet was this: you do not build a durable human being by managing how they feel about themselves. You build a durable human being by making them genuinely capable and letting the accurate feelings about themselves follow from the reality of what they can actually do. My parents were not trying to make me feel confident. They were trying to make me competent, on the quiet theory that real confidence is not something you install in a child with words, but something the child builds themselves from the inside out of the accumulated evidence of having actually done hard things. Feeling worthy was never the goal. Being capable was the goal, and the feeling was allowed to take care of itself because they trusted that a child who can genuinely do hard things will not need to be told they are wonderful. They will simply know what they are made of in a way that no amount of praise could ever manufacture. We are about a quarter of the way into what I most want to share, and if this is already landing, subscribe. Because I make these for the specific person who was told their whole life that they were special and cannot understand why that never quite turned into the solid inner strength they were promised. And stay with me, because I am about to show you exactly why praise, however loving, cannot build the thing it is trying to build. And then I am going to be honest with you about the real and serious cost of the way I was raised, because there is one, and this channel does not pretend otherwise. So let me show you why the beautiful idea does not work the way it promises, because this is the heart of it. Self-esteem, the way the popular version means it, is a feeling about yourself, and the strategy is to give a child that feeling directly through words, through praise, through constant affirmation of their worth. You are so smart, you are so talented, you are amazing, and the child hears this again and again from the people they trust most. But here is the problem the theory does not account for. A feeling that is given to you from the outside that does not come from anything you actually did has no roots. It floats. And the child, who is far more perceptive than we credit, slowly senses that the praise is not quite connected to reality, that they are being told they are amazing whether or not they did anything amazing. And some quiet part of them stops fully believing it because a child can tell the difference between being celebrated and being seen. The praise becomes a kind of pleasant noise, and underneath the noise, the actual question, the one every human being is really asking, remains unanswered. The question is not, am I told that I am capable? The question is, am I actually capable? And that question can only be answered by evidence, never by words. And this is where the two philosophies split, and where you start to feel it in your own life. A child raised on praise arrives at adulthood with a head full of affirmations and a strange, hollow uncertainty underneath, because they were given the feeling of worth without the substance that is supposed to produce it. And some part of them knows the feeling is not backed by anything. This is the imposter syndrome so many high-achieving, well-loved people carry, the persistent sense of being a fraud about to be discovered, and it is not a flaw in those people. It is the predictable result of being handed the emotional destination without ever being walked through the terrain that actually leads there. They were told they were capable 1,000 times, and told is not the same as shown. And some ancient, honest part of the human mind knows the difference and refuses to be comforted by words alone. Meanwhile, a child raised on capability arrives at adulthood having been told they were wonderful, far less often, but carrying something the praised child does not have, which is a deep, quiet, unshakable pile of evidence. They have actually done hard things. They have failed and recovered. They have been cold and kept going, been frustrated and stayed, been certain they could not do something and then done it. And out of that accumulated evidence grows a confidence that does not float because it has roots all the way down into things that actually happened. We are halfway through, and before I give you the reframe that ties this together, I want you to answer one question honestly, just to yourself. Think about how you were raised or how you are raising your own child. When you want a child to feel confident, do you reach first for words, for telling them they are wonderful and capable and enough, because you want them to feel it right now? Or do you reach first for a task, for handing them something hard and letting them discover their capability by surviving it, even if it means letting them struggle in front of you? Most of us lean hard one way, and both come from love. Hold your answer, because here is the reframe that undid the whole question for me. Strength and self-esteem were never actually opposites, and the deepest mistake is thinking you have to choose. Real self-esteem is not the thing you give a child instead of strength. Real self-esteem is what naturally grows in a child once they have strength, once they have the evidence, and it cannot be manufactured any other way. The Western instinct wants the feeling and reaches for it directly. My culture's instinct builds the capability and lets the feeling come. And the second one works better, not because feelings do not matter, but because feelings that are earned are the only feelings that hold. If that just rearranged something for you, share this video with the one person you know who was loved and praised and still cannot shake the sense that they are not quite enough, because this might be the first explanation that actually makes sense of it, and it can reach them in 20 minutes instead of the years it took me to understand it. That is the whole reason a channel like this can exist. So let me make this concrete, because a philosophy you cannot practice on an ordinary afternoon is just a decoration. What does it actually look like to build strength instead of managing self-esteem? It looks first like praising the right thing, or often not praising at all, but instead simply noticing. When my son does something difficult, I try not to say, "You are so smart," because "you're so smart" is a verdict about his fixed worth, that he can lose the moment he fails at something, and it teaches him that my approval rides on a trait he has to keep proving. Instead, I try to say something much smaller and more honest, like, "That was hard and you stayed with it," which is not a verdict about who he is, but an accurate observation of what he did, and what he did is something he can do again, and build on, and own. The praised child learns to chase the feeling of being called smart. The child whose effort is simply witnessed learns to value the effort itself, which is the only thing actually within his control. This is a small difference in words and an enormous difference in what gets built. It looks, second, like letting the evidence accumulate, which means letting him do hard things, and harder for me, letting him struggle with them without rescuing him the moment it gets uncomfortable. Every time I step in to make something easy for my son, I rob him of a small deposit into that pile of evidence, the pile that will one day be the foundation of a confidence I could never give him with words. So I've learned to sit on my hands, to let him wrestle with the difficult thing, to tolerate the discomfort of watching him strain, because I understand now that the strain is not the obstacle to his confidence. The strain is the raw material his confidence is made from. Every hard thing he does without me becomes a brick, and one day there will be enough bricks that he simply knows, without anyone telling him, that he can build. And it looks third, like telling him the truth, even when a kinder seeming lie is available. A popular strand of parenting advice says to protect the child's feelings, to soften every failure, to make sure they always feel like a winner. But my parents told me the truth, and I try to tell my son the truth, because a child who is only ever told comforting things learns that the adults around him cannot be trusted to be honest. And a child who cannot trust the honesty of the people who love him is a child who is quietly, deeply alone. When my son fails at something, I do not pretend he succeeded. I tell him gently and warmly but truthfully that he did not get it this time, and that not getting it is simply information about where the work is, not a wound to be managed. Truth treats a child as capable of handling reality. The comforting lie, however loving its intention, quietly tells the child that we do not think they are strong enough for the truth, and children absorb that estimate of themselves and live down to it. Now let me be honest about the cost, because I promised I would, and because this channel does not sell you a romanticized culture. The way I was raised has a real and serious shadow, and I would be lying to hide it. When the focus on strength and capability is not wrapped in unmistakable warmth, when the truth-telling is not held inside obvious love, it curdles into something cold and it leaves wounds that last a lifetime. There is a version of this, and I have seen it and felt the edges of it in my own childhood, where the child becomes genuinely capable, genuinely strong, and also genuinely convinced that they are only loved for what they can do, that the love is conditional on the achievement, that they must keep performing or the warmth will be withdrawn. That is its own kind of imposter syndrome, quieter and sadder than the praised child's. The strong adult who can do anything except believe they are loved simply for existing. And so the Western instinct I have been gently criticizing is responding to something real, a real danger in my own tradition. The danger of raising a child so focused on capability that they never feel their own inherent worth, the worth that has nothing to do with what they can do. The healthiest thing, the thing I am reaching for with my own son and do not always achieve, is both at once. The capability built through evidence so that his confidence has roots, and underneath it, steady and unconditional and never in doubt, the warmth that says you are loved completely right now, before you have done anything, and you will be loved just as completely if you fail at every hard thing you ever try. Strength gives him roots. The unconditional warmth gives him a home to grow those roots in. And a child needs both, and neither culture on its own reliably gives the whole of it. That is the thing I want to leave you with, because it reframes the whole tired debate. The question was never strength versus self-esteem, capability versus worth, my culture versus yours. The question is how you give a child both the roots and the home, the earned confidence that comes only from real capability, and the unconditional love that has nothing to do with capability at all. Praise alone gives a child the feeling without the foundation, and the feeling floats away when life gets hard. Capability alone, without warmth, gives a child the foundation but leaves them cold and performing and unsure they are loved. But a childhood that builds genuine strength, real capability earned through real struggle, and wraps that strength inside a warmth so total, the child never once doubts they are loved regardless of what they achieve. That childhood produces the thing everyone actually wants, which is a person who is both genuinely capable and genuinely at peace, who knows what they can do and knows they are loved either way, and who therefore never has to spend their adult life chasing either the achievement or the reassurance, because both were quietly settled long ago, in a childhood that refused to choose between making them strong and making them feel at home. If this video shifted something in the way you see how real confidence is built in a child, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more on how the world's wisest cultures quietly build strong, steady, deeply grounded human beings, subscribe. There's a lot more coming. See you in the next one.